On your mark, get set. Hey,
Howdy.
what's happening?
Hey, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Wednesday.
Sunshine in the
It
sky.
is. And in the house. You got beautiful natural light coming through.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I might, I'm thinking about creating like a studio background or something. Something that has a conversational kind of vibe to it, ambiance of just talking.
Absolutely. Because we just talking about
We're just making conversation. Just making conversation.
Oh my goodness. So how have you reflected on the creative process and all that was moving last night after we had a later live last night. So what reflection have you had? I've had a bit, but I was wondering what your reflection.
No, you go first since you had. You didn't know I had one.
No,
so.
I didn't. But I was just wondering.
I'm just curious. What you get? What you get?
Well, I mean, for me, it's just my reflection. I'm just seeing how things move because while we were doing the feed, you poured some water into your plant, and I let out a blessing. And this morning, I got my blessing back. So I was just thinking on that level. Things have just kind of, hey, I gotta make sure I'm over here pouring, taking care of these plants more often if I'm gonna get those blessings over within less than what? It was well less than 12 hours.
Well, so. I can't keep track of mine. My blessings come so rapidly that, I just keep pouring out and the blessings keep pouring in. That's how I find, so I can't keep score.
No, definitely not. No need to keep score. But, I'm fortunate because, I had a responsibility shift just yesterday.
Do this
and
like
speaking
this.
of shifting, we can shift that way too. Ow.
Yeah, just wanted to see. Rotate your right.
Yeah. They're saying we can't rotate.
You can't rotate.
We're going to have to just slide it over.
Okay. It's going to work.
There it goes.
See, we just making adjustments, did it?
But anyway. So,
Yeah, there it is. How y'all doing?
Gotta make the adjustment.
Okay, so I just tap this. There it is.
So.
It's there.
Maybe that's
maybe
we're sideways. So I have to see.
Hey, look, we're gonna come out all kind of ways, all kinds of different ways, and I hope check it out on there.
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna check it out.
See what we looking like. We don't want to be standing on our heads.
I think we are though, but regardless, we gotta stand on our head in real life. The way
we gotta be flexible. We have to be flexible. But I got a feeling that I'm going to end up turning it back because I want the to be as correct aesthetically as possible.
Yeah.
How y'all doing this morning?
Hey everybody, what y'all got going on?
But you were talking about blessings.
But yeah, because and interestingly enough,
I'm gonna leave it like that.
It's 11:23, and the numbers 1, 2, and 3 always kind of have been coming up a lot lately. 1, 2, and 3 is either 123, 11:23, and so I'm always thinking about that as like a reflection of the fact that steps are bound to. You have to take the necessary steps, like 1, 2, and 3. Those are the steps that we use when we count. And now when you think about all the stuff that you feel as if you have to go through, or that you want to be able to get out of, you have to always take the necessary steps. And sometimes we want to take shortcuts, or we want to do things a little bit differently, or we think that there's a short. We really do think there's a shortcut to this life thing, and it really isn't. And you really can't skip steps. You can't skip steps at all.
And what's the prize? You want to take a shortcut? What does it mean? You want to hurry up and die?
Well, when we got on our mind that, hey, I gotta secure that bag by getting this job, or just a lot of times because of if you're from an area where in poverty is rampant. You know what I'm saying? And
nobody claims poverty.
No, you can't. But you can be in an area. That's why I went on and said area.
Everybody else in poverty, but us.
And I guess again, one thing that I thought was really interesting was how a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, mentions that regardless of the fact of whether I have money or not, I'm not in poverty. And I understand where they're coming from because poverty could very well be a mindset. Good morning.
Hey, Cookie.
And so, poverty is, I don't want to get on the Ben Carson bandwagon and say poverty is a mindset, but there is
there's an element of truth to that.
There is an element of truth because we have to there's this idea of believing where you can go and what you can ascend to and what you can do more of based on what you see around you. You're a product of your environment, and your environment is a product of you. So once you elevate what you believe, your surroundings can also change too. So I'm just excited about the steps.
So that was the sum total of the blessings that you received.
The blessings that I received, the sum total was that recognize that you have to take the steps. Even though we talked about expectations yesterday, the expectation should be more often than not that you're taking the correct steps to get where it is that you say your end goal is. And so I'm fortunate that I have had people around me, again, being a product of my environment, and and the environment being a product of who I am. I'm searching for what I want, and I'm tapping into the people and the knowledge that is around me to get there. And I'm fortunate that with their help and their insight and their belief in me, bada bang, blessings on blessings on blessings.
I just believe in pouring out, and that's kind of like I saw some manifestation of that, on yesterday during the broadcast as well as after. I had people start following me, while we were broadcasting. That's, some people say I go through, or maybe it's a phase or something, that we don't care what people. I don't care what people think about me. All I care about me, and all this, and I don't necessarily feel that way. I don't bend over backwards, for people to like me,
right.
But by the same token, I don't want to just like be so arrogant and obnoxious that I don't want any friends. So I don't want to have. Why do people go on social media to be antisocial?
Oh yeah, that's the outlet. Now we get to parlay and act like we're being social when in reality we don't like ourselves enough to be around anybody else or to put ourselves in front of other people to be possibly judged by them. Only God can judge me. Well, the reality is the God and other people will judge you, and they're supposed to judge you, and you're a reflection of all the things that you need to be learning in God from the other people that you're around. So maybe you need to take that as a lesson.
So is it? Are we repelling people from us? Or are we repelling people from God?
We can do both. I think we repel people from us because of our lack of belief that the God in us is worthy of being, or that there is a God in us, or that there is a level that we're at a level where God will be pleased, and so we just push people away because God is not pleased with me, and I just got to go hide, and sometimes it's necessary to go in your closet and pray. Duck off, figure out what you got to do to do
one
you.
Word. That's one word. I think another word rhyme with that.
But the reality is you have to understand that there are steps. And when you want to skip those steps because of the fact that you think that you're supposed to be somewhere already, you have to understand that there very well may be something that you have missed. And you're going to, and maybe that step that you missed is just patience. And so you got to work on that. You definitely have to work on that, and I'm fortunate to be getting all those lessons, and that's why I can share them with you. This is the words that I speak out of my mouth are hardly ever for you; they're always for me, reminders for myself. And then we share those things with people.
You talking to me or you talking to everybody?
Just everybody. Anything
okay.
that I ever say, you know what I'm saying. Anything that we share with people, the lessons that we give to teach is to learn twice. So anytime we're sharing what we feel we know through our personal truth, we're teaching ourselves twice. Right, or we're learning twice to teach once. So we share what we know in hopes that you will investigate and do the work and do the footwork and take the appropriate steps in your own life to do what is necessary to be who you have to be. But just use what we've offered as lessons as an opportunity to think about it a little differently. We're just talking.
Then that's where I believe that my blessings come from. And I'm also not one of those people who tell you that I don't want to see likes, on my Facebook. posts and
So like
and
this.
on YouTube. So yeah, like this for one, and also share it, and because that's where I know that I'm reaching people. I get some notifications of people that have viewed it, but sometimes viewing it means you passed by, that you didn't necessarily stop and absorb anything or even watch it at all. You were just scrolling, and when you scroll, you don't even have to see it. You can scroll past it, and it'll still show up as a view. And I just count them as well, maybe they watched it, maybe they did. But the more people that it reaches, I think there's a percentage that does actually watch at least a portion of it. And I'd like to think that we're saying something that has some significance to folks.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what we got on yesterday evening. That's the kind of blessing that came back to me. Is that because I'm about ready to give up politics. Or at least politics in terms of elected offices. Running for different things like that. I might have one or two more in me, but what I really want to do is focus on reaching folks in the community and helping to do that kingdom building and community development and strategic partnerships for spiritual warfare. That as we move out of Babylon and the things of this world, that we have some unification in our communities so that we can unite with one another and live and prosper as was prophesied to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I just got to go there because I don't see anybody else in the history of this world that fit that description better than the so-called Negro, black person, or whatever here in North America. When you can't find a better description of lost than what you see here, or the enslavement that is spoken of in within the scriptures. But anyway, I was just kicking that, and
yeah, you spoke on unification, and I think there's always this mix of really always. I think just like we spoke to yesterday, this idea of even the most progressive people still adopt ideals that are that of the mainstream and that of policies, politics, practices that are the antithesis of progress. So even though we say that, oh yeah, we're all for togetherness, we still will adopt exclusive practices that exclusionary practices that will exclude people that for the same ones that we say that we're willing to welcome. And so in the same vein, when we think about unification, we will still accept these ideals of what that looks like based on what somebody else has put forth as what unification should be. And I think in the reality, this idea, when I talk about adopting a code of ethics, do as you please, harm no other, we have to really understand how far our reach is. We have to understand that we are way more powerful than just our immediate circle of influence. We actually have a reach that goes beyond that. And when we start thinking about the fact that our interconnectedness is very real, you'll understand that the choices that you make, even though they seem harmless, could very well be harming someone. And when we expand our belief of who we are and what we're able to touch and how we can expand our reach, we'll leave out those ideas of what unification or what exclusion or what inclusion even looks like, and we'll recreate something that is based on ensuring that we're not harming someone else that is around us by really thinking more closely on the choices that we're making. And I think that's not to try to encourage people to overthink or overindulge or be over self-absorbent, because I think that can lead to those things too. That's the alternative. However, I think it is really important to really reconsider where you find your traditions, belief, and ideals, because they are very much pervasive in your life in ways that you can and cannot see. It's important to understand that, and deal with unification in a way that works maybe differently than we heard in the past, I think.
But speaking of unification, and the family unit is really being hit hard by all the changes that this world is dictating and kind of like making the direction for, and making directions for what should be a family, and a lot of it is tearing families apart. And so when we look at unification, I think that one of the cornerstones of the infrastructure is the family. Infrastructure in the culture and building a culture is how we deal with the folks within our own homes. And I was looking at some of the similarities when we were talking about 20 things to make a healthier, happier marriage or stronger marriage, or however it was worded. And I just wanted to pop the question to you.
Yeah.
And the question is, do you want to get married?
I
Don't
think so.
look at me like
I mean, I always have to question what my ideal and what I process and internalize is what marriage is. But do I want to have a committed?
that was not a proposal, y'all.
Listen, God blesses or blesses and proposals. Yes, I think so. I think I want to get married. For me, it's a very touchy situation because of my history with abuse and with my history with having daughters and not wanting to subject them to, and my level of trust. I think for me, I think marriage is something that I would prefer to do after they were out of the house, just for the sake of somewhat embracing this, just because of my lack of trust. If I put it out there, I kept it behind it. My lack of trust, once they're out of the house, I think I would consider more seriously this idea of marriage and whatnot. But pursuing the ideas of being committed to my own process and growing as a person and connecting with someone that is committed to their own process of growth and being able to see if there's ways for us to mesh and grow and create generational wealth together, absolutely. And if that is a part of marriage, then I'm down. I just would like someone that is committed to their process and their purpose before I move forward. Yeah, but, I don't know. Do you think you want to get married?
Yeah.
Yeah. But but you were almost as slow as I was in answer.
Yeah, I was calling myself trying to segue into 20 ways to strengthen your marriage.
Yeah, and we do have a list, and we've started that list previously, and number one on that list was eating healthfully. That was the number one thing that Sharon Naylor listed on, and this is taken from Huffington Post repost from Sharon Naylor on 20 little ways to make your marriage even stronger. And so, eating healthfully is one. And when I think about having gone to the doctor just yesterday, the fact that...
You okay?
I don't know. We don't know yet. We'll see soon, because looks like there might be some liver gallbladder situation going on. Which it just strikes me as so odd, but not too odd, because I recently shifted my diet into just incorporating more fast food. And so my body was like, I incorporated, I would go to Cookout every once in a while. Before, there was no fast food. You wouldn't catch me in a fast food line unless I was driving someone that needed to pick up some food and they wanted to go to a fast food restaurant. But I had started incorporating maybe once or twice a week. I would go grab some French fries from Cookout, or once a month even. You know what I'm saying? Me and my daughters, we might binge out on a little Cookout tray and some ice cream, a little sundae, and things like that. But that was very different from what I typically would do. And I also, at the start of the fall, started integrating meat back into my diet. And that had happened on a fairly regular daily basis. And so then I pop up and I'm having a little bit of stomach pain, and my daughter was playing around because I picked up weight. She was like, "Oh, congratulations!" And we felt a spot, and I was like, "What was that?" She was like, "I said, did you feel that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I felt that." And so I had to go see a doctor, And so the reality is eating healthfully. However, I did pick up some weight. Thank you very much. The nurse even looked at the chart like, "What? You was 160 last time. You 180 now. Ow, team, get your weight up." I did want to pick up some weight. I didn't want to end up with
not the
liver
whole
disease.
team pick up some weight. Not the whole team. Just a select few. Some folks on the team need go the other way. Eating healthy is important, and that is something that families gather around.
That is
eating, your meals and so forth. But if you know you're kind of on the heavy side, don't take that as encouragement to go gain some more weight.
It's an encouragement to eat better because you don't want to have organ damage because you're overloading your body with fatty foods and high cholesterol because it's not good and not productive, and it definitely will shorten your lifetime. And you don't want to have to be spending so much of your time with your mate caring for them because of the fact that they didn't eat healthy and they weren't able to take care of themselves.
Yeah, for those who still do things like that, because a lot of people for in sickness and in health, it's like you better stay well. That's like your kids telling you, "Oh, I'll take care of you. I'm never going to put you in a nursing home." They will
let it last more than a couple weeks.
They will roll you up to the TV, give you the remote, a TV dinner, and they say, "I'll call you. Here's the phone right here in case you need me." You better not call me.
Oh my gosh. And number 2 was make time for exercise, and I had to reincorporate exercise because that does burn some of the fats that won't overload your gallbladder. So I've been doing a lot of research on the gallbladder and the liver, and a lot of people will, especially those that have a history of diabetes and so forth, will die with a fatty liver, even though it's mostly associated with alcoholism. So there are people dying of fatty liver even though they weren't alcoholics. And I know for a fact because my auntie, who I hold dear to my heart, and life has never been the same since she passed when I was a teenager, she died, and they were always like, well, were you a heavy drinker? And everybody's like, she never drank like that. And I know that it had to do with the fact that every single morning we had bacon, eggs, rice, and scrapple on the plate. So, and that was just our life. That was a lifestyle. I came up on scrapple, y'all. That's why I had high blood pressure at the age of 4. So, but that's the reality.
That's a lot of scrapple.
That's a lot of scrapple. but making sure that you eat healthfully and exercise, make time for exercise were number 1 and 2 on a list of 20 little ways to make your marriage even stronger. Number 3 was talk about your early days of dating, which is cool. It's always good to reminisce. Number 4, bond with each other's friends. Number 5, give your spouse alone time with their pals. Number 6, bond with each other's families. Number 7 was touch as often as possible. Like the little arm touch, rub up on them when you're getting coffee in the morning. The other thing is drop your old issues. Listen, and I like to do, with all the gallbladder liver research, I like to also look at the metaphysical and the psychosomatic connections. That just means like what the hell you've been thinking about, that because dis-ease, and I think it has a lot to start with what's on your brain. And stress was high on the thing when they talk about liver damage.
How about 30 years of scrapple?
Well, I wasn't eating scrapple for 30 years, but that will do it. But I can imagine. But that's an old issue you got to deal with. The fact that you like all those pig parts fried up in some grease first thing in the morning, that could be an issue that you need to drop, and that has some real life. And you got scars and damage from your old dating days or your old eating ways, and you got to let them dry.
People die from lung cancer that don't smoke too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I always try to take on the, what can be the psychological or the metaphysical reasons and connections to what's happening in your environment that affects your body.
Then you got those who live to be, over 100 years old.
That
And
been
say,
eating
what's
bacon,
your
pork
secret to life? I love ham.
Yeah, that's right.
I smoke a cigar every day, and I have a half a pint of liquor.
And they happen to live usually in environments where they're collaborating and working closely with people who are actually helping them out, and they just are carefree and stress less. And so another thing that I realized that when I looked into the liver, it was like, are you living a life that you feel like you want to escape? Have you allowed depression to weigh heavily? And that has been the case over the last couple months, maybe between June and June and October. Depression was extremely heavy and prominent in my life. And so, hey, I recognize that could be a factor as well. Fortunately, we're on the up and up.
Here come the mailman. I hope he bring me a check.
I know that's right.
I'll take a check.
Hey, me too. And number 9, fight fairly is another one. Do we fight fairly in the community? I think petty is pervasive. I think we just love being petty. We will not stop being petty no matter what. And I don't think that's fighting fair.
I don't think I'm petty. I don't fight often, and I don't know how to fight fair. Because unless it's a game, that was something what we were talking about the other day. Some friends and I went out and we were talking about Shaka Zulu and how he changed the face of war. Because prior to shedding blood, those were actual war games that the Zulus did. They did them for fun. All day long, they're out playing war. We did that as kids when I was growing up. And
all I played was ID Clay.
And what happened was Shaka Zulu got tired of playing war and stabbed and killed somebody, and everybody stopped looking at him, and they turned around because that's not how they did it. They would have war games, like they got this tribe over here, and everybody's just playing, and I guess you surrender when you can't handle it anymore. But Shaka Zulu murdered somebody, and then murder became the goal, and so it went from war games to war serious.
Yeah, that's interesting. But, thinking about fighting fairly, then I guess the real question is there such thing?
Kill your spouse, though. That doesn't sound like a
no, but you don't want to kill their spirit either, you know, and I think that
if you're smart, you don't want to kill their spirit.
And I think that that's what happens a lot of times when for in sickness and in health, rich or poor, right? When somebody's not getting that check that we hoping the mailman is bringing over here, if somebody's not getting that check, then a lot of times there are those stabs that people are taking at people's character or ability or their actual are you manly or womanly enough because you're not handling your business.
Yeah, I'm not going to run out there and
let's see.
Because chances are that it's not, but there is a chance that it could be.
But don't be a Shaka Zulu in your marriage. Don't be the one going for blood, and trying to and that I think is very important. And I work really hard on being a gentleman because I understand that a lot of times there are people, especially men, who have been under the impression that if you don't look like or act like you're going for blood, then you'll be on. If you don't look like, you'll get got. And so I try to be gentle, but it is definitely difficult. And I'm fortunate that people are coming in my life, or because of my influence on people in my life, that they understand how to become softer. A lot of them I know y'all like soft. I ain't no dude. I ain't finna be soft. No. Softer in how you approach the person that you call your significant other or someone that you care about, because it's a difference.
I've been, I found that's something that came to mind. I don't know if it had anything to do with the talk yesterday, but I really, I had a couple of women that I was dating that thought I was passive, and I'm like, damn, you couldn't get anybody in my hometown to believe that, and I was somewhat I caught some feelings behind it because you know, Pat, you don't think because I don't war
Right.
the way
You are
they
used
think
to.
it. You know,
Right.
you don't know. I'm like, I'll hold a conversation. They said even in politics, you know, and running for office and so forth. It says, you got to get out there and get dirty. You got to do this and you got to do that. And I'm like, that's not my style. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be more aggressive. So I'm like, that's not where I'm going. And I'm like that in my personal relationships. And I had one woman who would, you know, cuss, you know, got to cussing me out. I'm like, hold up, baby. I can't do that like that. I don't want us to have a relationship where that's how we get into it, like name calling and, you know, and
some people like to fight just to make up. It's like, ain't nobody got time to that. If we gonna make up, let's not have to make up. Let's just make out, you know.
Might as well, you know, but I just couldn't see it, but it did stand out. And it's like, and if this is like small stuff, why don't you just get to the point? I'm like, well, damn, you know, I'm not trying to pimp. You know, I ain't trying to pimp slap you upside the head metaphorically or otherwise. Right. You know, I just don't want this kind of relationship, you know, where in my household, you know, where we got to fight and every time you turn around, we got to call each other out of our names and all of that. Yeah. I just don't, I refuse to say you're my queen, but we got to rumble like the Thriller in Manila.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. You know, it's unnecessary, and it's funny because sometimes I think about the relationships I see that look so, you know, cool and dope and things like that. But then when you dig into people's history, they go to war. They was on crack together. Like, you know, these people have been through it. You know, and they fought it out physically. To be able to be in a place where they know how to love on each other. And I just don't want to necessarily have to start there. Let's get through. Let's fight. If we're going to fight, let's just fight side by side. And I mean, sometimes it's going to be a fight in trying to get someone to understand how to love you the way that you feel love or to show them love. But don't just fight fair. Just fight fair.
And then I don't even, in relationships, I don't even raise, it's rare that I even raise my voice. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, this is about over now, you know, and you might think because I'm saying it all calm, and, you know that he ain't gonna do that. And so you get ready to get your whoop, you know, it's about to go down, you know. And I'm like, but I won't be like, I'm like, baby, something is wrong, you know. I don't like the way this happens, you know, and this, you know, can we fix that? And you know, because of the tone, somebody might think that, like, say, that's passive, you know, but I'm not being passive. I'm being peaceful. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm going to see to it, as long as I'm able, I'm going to see to it that I have a roof over my head and all of that good stuff. And so if we in a house that we have together, don't worry, I'll leave. You know, you can stay there and argue and fuss all you want. I'll be gone, you know, but I will be doggone if I'm going to live in a war zone in my sanctuary. You know, my home is my sanctuary.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that they brought up, that this is an article that we're taking from the Huffington Post by Sharon Naylor on 20 little ways to keep your marriage keep your marriage even stronger, make your marriage even stronger.
Please like and share the video.
Yes, thank you. After Fight Fairly is number 10, and that's we're in this lovely kitchen, cook together. You know, one thing that I've realized, that even though the people that don't necessarily in my life that don't fight fair, that have a tendency to not fight as fairly as I would like them to, they can cook, so they get a pass because we get to eat together. Because I'm a fat girl, you know, despite the fact that I may not be a big girl, I'm a fat girl and I love to eat. And so, you know, I think
not fat.
I am fat. Shout out to Fat Girls Are Cooking over there in Pittsburgh.
Hey.
Throwing down. And you know, I think being able to spend that time in the kitchen and creating together, I think it just kind of goes along with creating together. But having somebody that just, you know, even after they didn't fight fair and they cook you that bomb meal, I think the last meal I had after a not a fair fight was some spaghetti. And I'm not even a big spaghetti fan. Like, if you can throw a spaghetti at me and I'm like, damn, that's some good spaghetti. That's some good spaghetti. And he made some good spaghetti, so he got lucky. Not lucky, like,
so
but
lost,
he was lucky that
fight.
I didn't. Yeah, exactly.
He beat you up and then fed you.
Look, this is not a signal to anybody out there watching that you can whoop my ass and then stuff me with food, because it's not gonna work. Keep your sense of humor is number 11, so you gotta laugh about me.
Fatten frogs feed snakes. I never knew what that meant until now.
Number 11 is keep your sense of humor. Have a sense of humor. If you want your relationship to last, your marriage to work out and get a little bit stronger, be willing to get picked on from time to time. That happens. And that happened even this morning, because I worry a lot. And then, I have people around me that are just like, girl, ease up, stay focused. I'm going to fade to the background a little bit. You put in the work and chill out. And then I'll wild out because why aren't you around? And it's just like, don't you got work to do? And, and the fact that we get to a place where you end up with blessings and they're like, didn't I tell you that it would get better? Didn't I tell you to stop worrying? Oh, now you're going to be a mad scientist, right? Like those kind of jokes that you're willing to be able to receive can keep things light, and they don't feel like they're walking on eggshells around you, and I think that happens a lot. People go through things and then they feel like they can't joke with you, and it's never good.
I think I send out signals like that.
What, somebody got to walk on eggshells around?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
I probably do too, actually.
It's I don't know. It's just that old thing. We've discussed that a couple of times. Survival techniques.
Oh, right, yeah. And just having that straight face. But the thing is, I think if you're a person that assumes that because a person isn't giddy and smiling at you, that means that they have something against you, or that you have something to be worried about, then I think you have a problem within yourself. So for me, those people...
That too.
Yeah, those people, it kind of, it's a balance. It's a fine balance. But if this is somebody that's supposed to be loving and caring on you and loving you, and then they still feel like they can't say anything to you, then you just need to lighten up. Just lighten up. I don't know.
Definitely. I mean, there's work to be done on both sides of that equation, but I get that thing, you're intimidating, and I'm like, it's not my intention to be intimidating, It's
like this. I was born with this face. Like, what the hell?
I was born with it, but the expressions and the posture of the muscles in the face, I had something to do with that.
Okay.
But it's like I often consider, am I being taken seriously? And particularly in politics, it's one of the things. It's like I'm going to lay out a proposal, and I've got plans for something, but people say, well, you ain't from. That's another thing. People believe that if you're not from where they're from, you couldn't possibly be smart or intelligent or cool or whatever it is that floats your boat in your neighborhood or where you come, the old hood where you come from, and it's just not true, and I've lived up and down the East Coast, here in North Carolina and in New York City, as well as upstate New York and in Connecticut and in the suburbs of D.C. And everywhere you go, the people who are there, feel like they're the cool ones, and you are you are a Bama or a coon or something, that like you're the interloper, like what you doing here? You gotta like prove yourself all over again in one way or another. Yeah. And I've always, for the most part, I've tried to do it by matching wits. Yeah. Because I got tired of fighting physically. Right, that's like, oh man, I got to go in here and bust somebody upside the head. He cool. He cool. Yeah. Oh man, he down. And
it's crazy, and I think maybe this could lead into the next one where it says know when to listen without offering advice. There are times when we are maybe treading new territory, but you have to know when to take the response that people have without feeling as if you have to respond to them, or without offering any advice. Allow people to vent and say what they need to say and get things off their chest without either confirming or denying. That's one of the things that we kind of learn as teachers and probably as social workers too. when to allow someone to say what they have to say without, offering up a facial expression that that is suggestive of you either disagreeing or agreeing, and just welcoming that conversation, but being balanced in facial expression to allow that to flow.
And that was when we're talking about, and all of this ties into the mental health.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, who do you go to, to dump, or you're gonna get your stuff off, or get help from somebody that culturally is just alien to you.
Yeah.
Or you're alien to them, and sometimes we're under the impression that because somebody has a license to practice, and got their certificates on the wall, that they can identify with what you need to do to fix your mental health issues, and it's not always true. You haven't been through what I've been through. You don't know what it's like,
right.
And there's obviously a lot of understanding, because people will tell you that stuff. Well, color doesn't matter, and it's like you ain't been in that situation, and that could be from both sides, that where you have a blind spot in those areas, and so you may have all the certifications that there are, but you've never witnessed somebody spit on your mother, for whatever reason, or kill somebody or attack somebody in your family for their racial or sexual identity.
Right.
And so so you really don't know about that. So all you just say, "Oh, did they do that to you? Oh, sticks and stones may break my bones." And I'm like, get out of my face with that. Because
For real. And even just like 12 mentions that you have to know when to listen. You have to know as a person when to just take out some quiet time, and just to be with yourself, to make sure that you are addressing. A lot of times I think addressing, okay, well, where does, especially when you have like this really passionate and a set of emotions coming on, when you're flooded with emotion, whether that's anger, sadness, disappointment, I think it's important to really take some quiet time. And I think based on number 13 saying carve out quiet time on the list of 20 little ways to make your marriage a little stronger. Carving out quiet time, it says make it a point to decompress each evening. I think decompress each evening to kind of reflect on how the day has gone, reflect on how the day has made you feel, and to extend that quiet time, stretch, because you can see what effects it's had on certain parts of your body. Have you been so uptight in a meeting that your neck is now sore because you've been trying to hold your posture and be poised through a meeting that you want to just smack somebody's ass out in, so
you just reminded me of church.
And be like that after you get out of church. You be so poised that by the time you out of there, and that's real. And that's why people go home and drink. They get drunks and slither because they just trying to decompress from all the pressures that were on them, because it's been loud, the music's been singing, the pastor been yelling, somebody's sister lady at the church been shouting in the background, and then you just uptight because you were just trying to receive what they had and trying to release, because you like, look, it's been a long week, I'm trying to get it started.
And Deacon so-and-so sitting over there rolling their eyes at you. Then you look up in the choir, somebody got one of those. Or somebody tell you get up, get your praise on. They tell you need to sit down.
Listen. It was so funny because on the Steve Harvey.
And then we gonna pass this basket one more time because it ain't enough money in here to cover our expenses.
Like, I just gave you my last quarter. I ain't even got no more quarters in my change purse.
You sit there trying to find God in the midst of all of that. Because that's why you got to find God within you.
Absolutely.
In the midst
and it's
of
necessary
yourself.
to take some quiet time. And 14, speaking of quarters in your wallet to offer up, be financially responsible.
And then leave the church and rush into the buffet and all of them sanctified people running all over top of each other because you're going to get that last piece of sweet potato pie. So, come on. It's just the reality, that Just I think I've gotten a lot better in many of those areas because I've turned from a lot of that, and I'm retired, so I don't have that stuff on the job to bring home with me, and I generally, for road rage, I generally can get over that within a couple of seconds, and so I mean.
But I mean, I can imagine being stressed out leaving church if you just had to put money in 3 different places and you can't even make rent at the end of the month. Be financially responsible. That's
and then
one way
they
to
bring
make
in
it.
a guest preacher who asks for another offering.
Yes,
And you sitting up here in one of the poorest counties in the entire United States. You done gave all you had, this mofo done got the nerve to ask you for some more. If you love God.
right? Yes, that's
Dig a little deeper. It's like you done bottomed out. you got to have, and look, and then everybody talk about you if you got your pockets turned inside out, and he tapped out. It's like, and then they gonna say, "Oh, broke ass."
Wow. Be financially responsible, and I think that's something that we have to start.
What number is that?
That's number 4. Let me double check. Number 14. Be financially responsible, and we haven't always been taught financial responsibility.
Sure haven't.
And it's one of those things where
I'm still learning.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's an ongoing process, and if you're not a financial advisor, I think they learn. Things change, policies change, tax laws change, and that. So even financial advisors, those things change from day to day. But one book that I had started digging into was Smart Women Finish Rich. And so it kind of exposed the fact that a lot of women, especially those who happen to be married, interestingly enough, were relying on their husband for a lot of the financial weight of what happened in the household, and that they ended up, in the case of unfortunate circumstance, divorce, death, illness, that they weren't prepared to handle the finances in the household, and that he felt that because of his influence, his grandmother, it seems, was the owner of this finance company, because she was just really smart with her small dollars. But he also saw that there was another grandmother, or his mother, in fact, that was just like, oh, your father's the bank, or and so she never really had that sense of responsibility, and so it was important to just consider what consider what, where you can be putting in your investments, where you can be moving your money. And at the end of the day, if you're not making enough money,
it's a whole nother set.
That's a whole nother, that's just, it's just difficult. So, to talk about financial responsibility, when you're not making money, it's hard. And I think there are some people who aren't making money. And so we try to find ways to release from the fact of not having a ton of money to pour into activities. And so we'll go splurge up at the nearest restaurant, because it's like, well, shit, I'm gonna be broke anyway, so I'm gonna just go throw my money at the restaurant.
Wake up.
And it's okay.
It's the first of the month.
But in terms of trying to be financially responsible, we have to figure out other ways to do those things that will make us pleased without spending our budget. If we're trying to get out, but not having money, you just got to really figure out what skills you have to make more money.
And everybody has their plate sales, their yard sales, their different jewelry, and whatever product line that they're selling. They'll have an event, for the first of the month, the first week of the month. You find a lot of that around here, a lot of that. And I don't know if it was like that everywhere and I just wasn't paying attention. But it's just, some little things that I see now. Yeah. And generally the third week of the month is like pretty tight for folks.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. But the being financially responsible is going to, it's going to be necessary if you're trying to keep a strong marriage, because when you look at the divorce rates, it's either about infidelity or cash, and that's just the reality of it. Number 15 is speak well of each other. That's self-explanatory. Stop talking shit and stop going out and hollering at the people and your folks behind your back, or telling your mom and them, or telling your cousin them, or your homegirl and them, or your homeboy and them, like, yo, she getting on my motherfucking nerves, you know. So did I see that? Did I say the M1 for it?
Yeah, you did. It's okay.
But you know, but I think
it's too
that's
late now.
I
Can't
see,
take it back.
rewind.
It's out there.
You know, but you know, but even I've seen it happen even in some of my relationships.
Better, you know,
I have friends who will tell me about, you know, their girl, you know, and the stuff that they're doing shady, and it's gonna make me look at them sideways, you know. And it could just be, it could be I'm only getting one side of the picture, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but because they're telling me, oh, you know what she did, you know, and I'm looking at her like, you know.
And I really don't have, man. That's the kind of stuff that people generally don't come to me with. They'll say, everybody knows that. I'm like,
I don't know.
I
like
missed
that.
it.
Everyone knows. Yeah.
I missed it, you know, and I really, you know, I don't really care for that. And I think sometimes that's the facial expression that they get.
Right.
It's like,
because they're like, oh, he don't look like he want to gossip with me. That's really what they say when they say, oh, you look like he don't look like he want to gossip with me. And that's what I think too. You know, even some of the hardest dudes in these streets, they will tiptoe and
more than a little old lady.
They do, but they will tiptoe lightly because they understand that, oh, she's one that I have never heard about and I don't even see her, you know. So they know to tread lightly because it's like, oh, if she ain't out here in these streets and I can't run her record out here in these streets, then maybe that's somebody I should approach with some decency, and you know, and that changes the whole that changes the whole thing. But number 16 says you should be playful. So even though I do come with a demeanor and a stature that says, oh, well, I'm with the shit only if I need to be, but I'm a lady all other times. You know, I try to keep it light because I think I just had this conversation on a Facebook post this morning, and the gentleman was saying there are a lot of guys that are ready to marry. However, there's a lot of there's a lot of other circumstances that just keeps them from being able to marry, and you can't say that it's not any good guys out here, whatever. And I had to co-sign because I think a lot of times there are good guys that are just trying to figure out how to approach women, because women have gotten to the point where all the approaches they think are all going to be bullshit, and they just like, anybody says anything nice, hi, who you talking? Like, I've never understood why women get mad at people speaking to them. Like, he just said hi. You know, I understand that there, you know, people talk about this, the street harassment where people in the street like, oh, you know, smile, girl, you know, you da. When I think about it, most of the time I'm so deep in thought. If he actually happened to catch my attention by saying smile, I recognize that he was on to something because I was so deep in thought that I probably needed to let it the hell go. So, you know, and that for me is I appreciate the one that'll tell me to smile. Not everybody is like that, you know, and not everybody appreciates that because sometimes it goes beyond that, and people will men that don't get the warm response will then be like, well, bitch, I wasn't trying to talk to you anyway, and that's inappropriate.
I don't go there either. I don't get too many people telling me to smile much anymore. I smile more than I used to. Somebody would say, well, even on radio, smile, because people can feel
hear it. Right,
you know,
right.
You can hear it in your voice. So I do try to smile more, you know, and I'm just aware, you know, of the different environments that I go in where, you know, where smiling is like walking down 42nd Street and you looking up at all of the buildings and everything, like you got, and then people like put a target on your back.
Yeah.
You know, so
you do. And that's what I think, you know, the straight face comes from me, because it's like, if you're not, because I think people with discernment or people that are really interested will see through that. They see through it because they understand how people work, or they're interested enough to go for it. It's interesting because the people that I ignore the longest, they always have the biggest impact on me. There was this guy who I'd always see, and he was like a creeper. It was like, you're weird. He would just look at me, you know. And
that's what she thought of me too. So,
that's not true. But he was literally, I mean, I think it was years. I was in a relationship for years, and every time I see this guy, I frequent this store on a regular basis. If he was in there, he was looking, and I could tell that he was interested, but it was a little, you know, he wouldn't say anything. He just tried to make the eye contact known that there was an interest there. So eventually we ended up at the same place, at the same time. And he made sure of it that we were in the same, vicinity where he could get to a point where he actually could have a conversation with me. And then he made me laugh. And so, it was cool from there. And so, hey, maybe I'm just easy, whatever. You can make me laugh, feed me shit, stop talking shit. We good, and so if those if those people though for 3 years, and he still was trying to, he still tried to figure out how to position himself. Yeah.
I remember somebody kind of like broke something down to me, especially in if the weather's nice and you're in a residential neighborhood and there's a lot of people out and a woman's walking down the street. It's like you have no idea of the different things people have said to her while she's walking down the street or in the club, Right. And I can remember this woman walked by me. She came back into the area in the kitchen. I was working as a waiter, and she came back in the kitchen. I said, "Hi, what's your name?" She looked at me. She said, "I ain't got no name." Damn. I said, "Okay, we're done. That conversation is over."
But no, number 16 says you got to be playful. Even if life is stressful, express your playful and silly side by suggesting or agreeing to participate in sports. So ladies, if you are so mad at him about those video games he plays, if he's at home playing video games, I think there's some women that are worried about where the hell they man at because he's out in the street, whether it's the fact that he's out there hustling because that's what he thinks that's what it's about and that's what he's trying to do to get it to the next level, or if he thinks that it's, you here and you're going to be mad if I play these video games, so let me go be somewhere else where I'd rather be, whether that's friends or another person. The reality is
a different generation here. But go ahead with that.
It is. I'm sure because I've dealt with the under 40 and the over 40. It's like night and day. But you still have to be playful. Because even I was just like I also mentioned on that post talking about good men. I realized that the guys in the 26 to 36 bracket, they're interested in trying to secure the bag. If you got a bad attitude, a bad credit score, and you can't carry your own weight, get the fuck out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're not even going to tolerate that. They're not even going to take time to consider it. Whereas your older crowd,
the blood.
The older crowd, the over 36 is like, listen, I know what I want. You happen to be something that looks like close to it. You're not a dumbass, a dingbat. But you can't destroy my peace. Like I've done this way for so long. Please don't get in my way and don't expect a whole ton of difference or trying to change me after the fact that I've been like this for 40 some odd years, right? So, gotta be playful. And if that means playing the video games or, finding the opportunity to joke with those old guys who used to, not old guys. Did I just point and say old guys?
She did. She does that quite often, but it's okay.
But they played the Dozens. They came up talking shit and the Dozens was a thing where, if you knew who or how cool somebody was based on how good they can go in on you. I have friends from DC that are the same way. Like, you got to be able to hold your own in terms of getting joked on. I would not been able to come up as a kid in DC because I feel like the kids in DC just have to have a whole new level of wit to deal with coming up because you got to be able to get joked on. Jones, they're going to Joan on you. They're going to tell you about what you got on, whether your gear is tight or not, and you have to be playful. So if it's somebody that's going to be a joke inside, like the older guys, they joke a little more. You got to be a little less sensitive and be a little more playful and be accepting of that. If it's the guys on the younger side that are like, well, I'm not trying to be in these streets, but I want to have something, an outlet, and if that's their video games, hop on with them. I like video games. I like video. Be playful. Okay. That's number 16. Number 17, don't stall on each other's requests. Don't take forever doing what they ask you to do. Sounds like, I think there's some things like that, demands versus requests. I think that has to be evaluated. And then just make sure that you understand that if somebody has to ask you something multiple times, that's just goofy. Like, I hate that. Like, I'm not going to ask multiple times. And I'm going to feel some type of way. I'm going to let you know that I feel some type of way about having to ask more than a couple times, usually more than one. And so you can tell me that I should be a little more flexible, that you have every intent of getting it done. or you can tell me nothing because you don't want to feel as if I'm coming at your neck, and that's fine. But if it doesn't get done, I have a very low tolerance for asking for stuff because I don't ask for stuff in general. I'm very self-sufficient. But if I ask for stuff and it doesn't get done, I take it very, very, very personally. It's probably why I'm not in a relationship, a real one. Like,
Okay.
yeah. Number 18, accept that you'll both have bratty moments. Oh, I'm always
Two
a
more
brat.
moments, yes. I've seen that. I've seen evidence. It's okay. See, there it is, evidence, right?
Number 19, divvy up the chores.
It's funny you should say that because I am having a time, and I'm not OCD. I don't think well, yeah, I got a little bit. I got some traces of it, but I want to dust that table off so bad right there.
Well, we're gonna make sure we wrap up with number 20. This is 20 on the list of making your relationship, your marriage, a little stronger. Number 20 says, ask your spouse, what do you need more of?
Right now, just somebody to dust. If somebody would dust, I'd be just a happy camper until I could think of something else to complain about.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am so excited. Well, I've had a ball today. We've been up here for quite some time. Thank you all for tuning in.
That's only an hour.
Yeah, just an hour.
If you share the video, like it, share, you can watch it later on. And one thing that I must say about these videos that we produce, it's just as good as a lot of what I see on TV, and better than a lot of what I see on TV,
true.
and that's not to pat myself or ourselves on the back. It's just like
that's the quality of TV and the fact that we are dishing out some substance. We dish out substance, and we hope that you welcome it.
Kingdom building,
absolutely, strategic partnerships, folks. That's what we're here for.
Community development.
We'll see you. Happy Wednesday.
You take care now. All right. See ya. God bless.